I do not have solutions. This is an attempt to phrase or to frame the problems that we are trying to solve. I studied to be an engineer, and then I decided to save the world by moving out of that field. We have more engineers than we can shake a stick at. I don't know what this world is going to do. I think what we need more of is poets and artists and teachers and bakers and cooks and tailors. And so I came out to be a writer. In my, say, 25 years of work experience, I've held two mind-numbing, spirit-killing jobs. And both jobs were with multinational corporations, something that all of us aspire to go into. The first job was when I was an indigent student in the US in 1990. In the summer of 1990, I traveled to Alaska. It was both to make money, but more important to see Alaska, because I'd only seen it in National Geographic. And I worked there for the salmon fisheries, which is a highly corporatized fisheries. It's not the catamaran-style fisheries. They go on industrial boats, and the process of fishing is extremely predatory. The summer is a season when the ice thaws in the hills of Alaska, the rivers start flowing, and gravid female salmon, heavy with eggs, return to the headwaters of the streams where they were given birth to in order to lay their eggs and begin or continue the cycle of life. The industrial fisheries intercepts these fishes, they grab them, put them into holes, bring them into the salmon canneries, and make pieces of them, put it inside cans, and ship it to Japan and other places. In this job, I had a job of a menial worker. My job was to collect the eggs. So what happens is the fish is sliced, the bowels of the fish are taken out, it comes in through a tube, and it lands in a tray in front of you. We have two of us standing facing each other. We sift through the entrails, remove the egg sacs, and put that in a separate place. That is salted, packed, and sent to Japan, where it's a delicacy. So I was involved in what is now become a collapsed fisheries. The salmon fisheries of North America are officially in collapse. I used to work 18 to 20 hours a day. The work was quite hard. The pay was pretty good because the overtime was $9.50, $10 a day is what we got for, $10 an hour is what we got for every overtime hour. So working 18 to 20 hours is anything above 8 hours, you get good money. The second mind-numbing job that I held was in Hong Kong as an editor of a magazine that was run by a global, a multinational trade publication. And this trade publication essentially put in touch computer manufacturers, computer part manufacturers in Asia with computer dealers, resellers, value-added resellers, distributors in North America and in Europe. And the magazine that we ran was actually just barely a magazine. It was more of a catalog. The difference between a catalog and a magazine is a catalog has only advertisements and a magazine has some editorial content. Now if I have only advertisements, I pay more postage. So this multinational company decided to save cost to get what is called first-class postage paid. And they pitched this catalog as a magazine. And for that they required 40% editorial content. And I provided them the excuse. I was the editor. So I was not the reason for the magazine, I was merely the excuse for the magazine. And this highly paid job, it was close to 1 lakh a month, was paid to people who could excel in mediocrity. I did pretty well at that. I lasted there for 2.5 years. While there, the managing director of our group, one day he talked to us in an inspirational speech about how there will be global peace through global trade. And there was a very clever friend of mine who was sitting right next to me. He said, yeah, right, it's global peace of everybody's profits, which is what they're interested in. So 1994, I returned to India, and I think that these two things had really wanted me to, pushed me to come back to India. I missed things like the voice of the paperwala outside the street, the milkman. There was a loss of human contact. I returned here, and my first article when I came here was to do an article on aquaculture in Tanjavur district. And there I met this woman who was talking to me about the impacts of aquaculture, where because of salt water being stored in large quantities, the groundwater had been salinized. So I said, there's this company, XYZ company, that does a wonderful job because they are returning to the community and they are building schools, they're building toilets for you. So the woman said, I didn't ask for toilets, I didn't ask for schools, I want water. What good is a toilet when you don't have clean drinking water? So this is my first introduction to corporate social responsibility. In today's world, we have money is God, and corporations are the high priest that will take you to this God. There are no modern institutions that are left untouched by corporations. We have the Olympics coming up. Everybody loves entertainment. People think we're excelling in our, athletic spirit. If you look at Olympism, it was set up in order to promote global peace, environmental sustainability, extremely important values. But if you look at the sponsors of Olympics, most of them are defense contractors. Their profits would take a nosedive if there were no wars in the world. Global peace is bad for business. And we have these people as the sponsors. Dow Chemical, one of the key sponsors of the London Olympics, is pretty well known in India for its association with the Bhopal disaster and ownership of Union Carbide. It is not very well known for what it's done in Vietnam. It supplied a chemical called Agent Orange. Can I have the, is it on? Yeah. It supplied a chemical called Agent Orange, which has now crippled more than 500,000 people. There are 500,000 children in Vietnam that are currently suffering the effects of Agent Orange, which was a chemical weapon that was a chemical that was sprayed over Vietnam by the US Air Force. They also developed Napalm. This is a very famous photograph from Associated Press taken in the 60s, where a village in South Vietnam was bombed, firebombed, using napalm, a chemical that is developed by Dow Chemical. And on the next slide, I don't know, can you read this? Yeah, so I can't read it. But I think I have to repeat this. But basically, gooks are Vietnamese. And if you just read this carefully, you will see how much pain they have taken in order to ensure that people die well. This company is a sponsor, a sustainability sponsor for London Olympics. The other companies that are there are McDonald's, Coca-Cola, British Petroleum, General Electric. Coca-Cola and McDonald's are probably the health mascots associated with obesity epidemic in the United States. So we have a massive problem, but we also, the corporations are extremely intimate to our lives, not just to yours, to mine as well. As an anti-corporate activist, I practice my activism using a mobile phone by Nokia. I brush my teeth with Pepsodent. I do not drink Tata tea, but I could. I drive around and I ride around on a Hero bicycle, which is again a corporate model, or a Ashok Leyland or a Volvo bus. But despite being so close to corporations, corporations are the least understood things. We think it is great to go and work for a corporation. Now, I don't mean to discourage you from working for a corporation. I think you need to make your own minds about it, and I think it's a great experience to be inside a corporation. But it's important to know what they are. For any small thing that we organize, and I noticed that you don't have corporate sponsors for SVCE's program, so thank you very much for that. But what I did notice is that for any small thing, a primary school is organizing a lemon and spoon race. They start looking around for corporate sponsors. IIT Sarang, this festival they have every January, in 2005, the year after the tsunami, they had a festival, a cultural festival for 5 days and blew up 80 lakhs in cash. That was got from Nokia, Hutch, Unilever. This year's budget is 1.6 crores of corporate sponsors. This is to have 5 days of fun. They're saying a lot of things. They're saying that you can't have fun without blowing up so much cash. You can't have fun without corporations. And in this, where is the youth? It's supposed to be a youth cultural festival. Where are the youth in this? The youth are missing. They had 16,500 square feet of banner space, and out of the 16,500 square feet of banner space, 350 square feet belonged to Sarang. The remaining was corporate sponsors. And 81% of that was just 3 companies, Nokia, Hutch, and Unilever. After the, as a result of all this criticism that the governments, the corporations have been getting, they devised this thing called corporate social responsibility, which is both a revelation and a misrepresentation. It's a revelation because it reveals that corporations are inherently not responsible. It is a misrepresentation because there is a belief that corporations can be made responsible. There's a person called Milton Friedman. He's not a long-haired freak like me. He's a free market capitalist guru. And he says that the only socially responsible thing for a corporation to do is to maximize profits for its shareholders. And he's not being flippant. If you look at the genetic makeup of a corporation, it obliges the corporation only to its shareholders. There is no legal obligation in the makeup of a corporation to its workers. That comes from a different law. No legal obligation on environment. That comes from a different law. Okay? So, the question of whether it is possible, I think, is answered. Because in the process of making profits, a corporation may give incidental benefits to people, like jobs for some people, or goodies for us. But is that the intent? That can be tested in trying times. When a corporation is going through, when an economy is going through a recession, corporations lay off people. Laying off is not good for the workers. It is not good for the domestic economy. A public sector unit can retain people because the shareholder is the public, it is the government. And if they retain people, the people still have spending power, the economy bounces back. A corporation, on the other hand, has to look after its shareholders. It is not evil, it is not good, it is not bad. A building is not good or bad or evil. The same way a corporation is also not good or bad or evil. And so when it lays off people, if there is a CEO, and the people who work in corporations are regular human beings like you and me. They can be good, evil, bad, all those things. If you have a good person as a CEO, and he's reluctant to fire 50,000 people, he will be fired. And a new person who can fire the 50,000 people will be brought in. So this is what I mean by saying that the benefits are incidental and not the purpose of a corporation. When you have to choose between profits and public good, profits will have to prevail, otherwise they are not being responsible companies. There is a myth about the kind of wealth that is created by corporations and distributed by corporations, about the jobs that are created. But if you look at Tata, a gold standard, it's a revered company. We're not supposed to say that word over here through the dirty mouth of mine. But in 1991, they were manufacturing 1 million tons of steel. They employed 85,000 people. In 2005, they manufactured 5 million tons of steel and employed only 44,000 people. So if you're saying that corporate prosperity and corporate productivity means an increase in employment, please think again. In India today, there's a National Sample Survey Organization results of 2006, which say that at that time we had 440 million eligible workers in our workforce, out of which 9 million, that is 2%, were employed in the corporate sector. The remaining, there's a substantial chunk in double digits for the government, and the rest of it, about 86%, in the informal sector. Now, corporate profits are not just, they're actually inversely proportional, almost perversely proportional to the well-being of labor and environment. I'll give you an example. How does a person make a profit? By saving, by cutting corners. How do I cut corners on environment? I don't install pollution control devices, or I don't run it if I install it, or I cheat about it, or I move my production from Spain to Tirupur. All these are ways in which I can maximize my profits. How can I do it with labor? I don't give him salary. I don't give him permanent employment. If I give him permanent employment, he has a secure life. He's not a contract worker who can be fired tomorrow. He gets benefits. That takes care of the domestic economy, but that is not the preoccupation of a corporation. The preoccupation of a corporation is the shareholders, and there the worker takes back seat. There is a study by the United Nations that was done in 2008. And this study was commissioned by an organization called TrueCost, commissioned to an organization called TrueCost. And they analyzed the externalities, that is the amount of loss caused by the activities of 3,000 of the world's largest corporations. Just in 1 year, $2.2 trillion. 100 lakh crores. That's about 100 2G scams vaporized in 1 year because of the activities of 3,000 largest corporations. So what am I saying here is that I think that there's a massive problem that we have over here. We have a situation where workers are required to choose between poverty and poisons or poverty and dignity.